Hey everyone, welcome back to I Heart Animation. For today's video, I have invited my friend Sol to join me. She and I met through the Rotoscopers patron group on Facebook, and she occasionally guest hosts the animation news podcast that I do with Rachel Wagner. I asked Sol to pick a more obscure movie for us to talk about, and she chose the second in a line of Barbie Fairytopia movies called Mermaidia. Despite what the movie looks like, I thought it made for a great discussion. So I guess to start out, why don't you introduce yourself and
Okay.
let everybody know who you are.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sol. I have a YouTube channel called Animation Geek where I do, animation reviews as well, and just other kind of geeky content like Disney stuff. And yeah, so if you want to check that out, that'd be nice. But I'm super excited because we're gonna talk about a film that it's interesting.
So why don't you kind of explain what this movie is about and why you chose it?
Well, so growing up, a lot of people, I'm from 97. So I did grow up with some of the Disney films like the Renaissance. But for me personally, for example, my favorite film of all time is The Emperor's New Groove and Hercules. So those are like more towards the end, right? And so, I do like The Lion King. I do like Beauty and the Beast, but I didn't grow up with them. I don't have that nostalgia to it. The movies that I did grow up a lot were more like the 2000s, like, Goofy movie and things like the Extremely Goofy movie and the Barbie movies. I did grow up, I've probably seen them all. Not the recent ones. I've seen some of the recent ones because they're on Netflix, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm curious to see this." But I vividly remember loving The Princess and the Pauper, 12 Dancing Princesses, something like that, and Mermaidia. Those were like my favorite ones. I did watch all of them. But something that was very appealing for me about the Barbie movies was, they were magical and and I don't know, I think they were like empowering in some ways. Nowadays, when I've seen the most recent Barbie films, they try to make it more edgy and like, whatever, video games. And I think that's cool. But what I really like about the original ones is that there was a fairy tale kind of vibe to it, which is very magical and like transports you. And I don't know, it just kind of has that Peter Pan vibe that the new ones are enjoyable, but I don't think they're like, magical and like they give you that vibe. I don't know. So yeah, I picked this movie because I haven't seen it in like 10 years. So I was very curious, like, does it hold up? Is it just the nostalgia? Can I talk about with someone who has never seen it, so definitely doesn't have the nostalgia to it? And yeah, I'm interested to talk about this.
So can you explain a little bit what the movie is about for
Oh,
people who don't know?
well, this is actually the sequel to Fairytopia. And to briefly kind of sum up the first one, we have the main character called Elena, and she's a fairy without wings, and she goes to this quest and saves her people, and she gets wings at the end. So the second one is she has wings already, and she has to go through, again, another quest to save one of his friends, who is like the Prince of Mermaidia, and there's the villain pretty much is the villain from the first movie, Laverna, and she has these like assistants, three of them that are like the fungi, and pretty much they have to find this berry, and that's why they kidnap the Prince of Mermadia, and they make him like, okay, like where's this berry? Because the berry supposedly is gonna make Laverna like undestroyable or something like that. And the prince has to kind of agree because they have this poison that if they drop it on the water, it's gonna kill everyone in Mermadia pretty much. So intense. And so yeah, Alina goes on this quest to save him, and kind of typical story with like adventure. There's a lot of like puzzles and things like that. She has to go underwater. There's some sacrifices that have to be made. It has a lot of themes of friendship, and yeah, that's pretty much the story overall, I think.
So from when you were little till
Mm-hmm.
now,
Yeah.
did you think it held up?
Well, my first reaction because I rented this movie, right? I was like, I'm gonna support Barbie, um, and so the first thing I thought, I don't know if because my screen was big or what, it was like, oh my gosh, the quality is awful. But I always knew the first Barbie movies from my generation at least, they were horrible animation. I recently watched again the Swan Lake one, And that was one of the very first ones. And I was like, oh my gosh, like it's kind of creepy because they have no emotions when they move their face. It's kind of creepy. Like the guy's like, I'm so sad. It's like, no. But you know, I guess once you get more into the story and stuff like that, you kind of, you know, I feel like it's the most, once you're underwater, I think it's better. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I thought that the animation was okay. The rendering and like the characters and objects themselves, everything had that old 3D animation look that everything looks like it's made out of plastic.
Yeah.
However, I kind of got over it because I reminded myself this is about Barbies, and Barbies are made out of plastic.
That's true.
So I guess it was better than if it was supposed to be like real people. Like if it had been supposed to be about real people in a real environment, I think maybe I would have felt like being more harsh on it. But since everything was supposed to be made out of plastic anyways, I was like, I guess it's fine.
That's true. So do you want to talk about the story? What do you think of the story?
It was actually better than I expected because I was expecting something like super cheesy because in the end, this movie is technically made to sell dolls to children.
For sure.
So I was expecting kind of the lowest quality story possible. So the fact that it wasn't horrible surprised me.
I do find it entertaining, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that like I'm definitely going to go rewatch this again.
No.
With everybody, but it was not something that I felt like it was a chore to sit through. Like it went by just fine. It was like, oh, okay, it was a decent story.
I think
it was fine.
Think it's intriguing to see, like, you know, kind of figuring out the puzzles and like how are they gonna get to this next obstacle. Like, for example, in the scene where there was like the fire, I was nervous. I was like, I know they're gonna like end up leaving and stuff like that, but I was like anxious.
The way the story was put together reminded me of how a video game story goes. Like, and actually in both movies, because I watched the first one because Rachel Wagner told me that, oh, you should watch the first one too because this is a sequel. Like, I did watch both of them. I don't think it was really necessary to watch the first one.
Yeah, because they do like a recap in the beginning of the second one, don't they?
Yeah. But both of them felt like the plots of video games because like in the first one, they were all the 7 kidnapped princesses and she had to go on a quest to rescue them and find all these objects. And it was the same with this one. Like you had to go to each different place and do a different thing. And like, if this was the plot of a video game, I think it would actually sell really well. It was simple enough.
Interesting. Yeah. What was the scene or moment that you were like, oh, okay, this is kind of nice, that you liked?
I actually liked that the one mermaid was kind of mean. I think her name was Nori.
Yeah.
She was like not that nice of a person, and
she was awful.
That because like with something like this for little kids, you expect everybody's going to be all nice and love each other and show how you're supposed to treat each other. But no, she was jealous and catty, and they had to learn to work together, and I liked that about it.
Yeah, and it wasn't fast. Like it took time for like them to like start liking. So that was nice. I did like that aspect. I was gonna talk about her because I was like, dang, she's like horrible. And it's like, why you gotta be so mean? It's like, do not come back here. No one wants anything to do with you. I'm like, okay. Talking about characters, I personally love Bibble. I thought he's so silly, and like when I was a kid, I used to do an impression of him, and it was something like. Like he talks like that, like it's super weird, and I love it when he's eating those berries and changing his voice. I was like living for that moment. And I don't know, I did find him funny and weird at the same time, and I would notice that sometimes he would say kind of like the Minions of back then in a way, but more enjoyable for me at least. He sometimes said words in English. I heard him one time say a word in Spanish, so that's very interesting. I don't know, what did you think of Bill?
I didn't like Bibble. I thought he was annoying.
Not for everyone. I accept that.
I think that he is one of those characters that they added in mainly for little kids. Like last Christmas, I watched the Barbie Christmas Carol with Rachel.
Yeah.
And in that version, there was a cat that I did not like.
Oh
And
no, that one is so annoying. Yeah.
I felt like this was sort of the equivalent of that cat, as like a side character that's
Yeah.
a,
All the Barbie
kind of
movies have the side
unnecessary to the
character.
plot.
Yes.
When I was watching it, though, I realized I've seen that character before. I've never seen any of these Barbie movies before, but I've seen that Bibble character.
Yeah.
He's a meme. Like, there's
Oh,
a
really?
meme that I had seen before that
No way.
I think it's from the scene where he's singing, and like the captions on the meme talk about a person singing a song when they were like 7 or 10, and it's usually like a song that a 7 or 10-year-old shouldn't be listening to.
Yeah.
And I've seen that, and I didn't know what that thing was. I thought it was like an ugly baby version of Ellie from Monsters Inc.
That's so funny.
because the
Oh my
colors are
god.
similar. And
That's true.
I thought it was somebody's weird fan art that had been turned into a meme. But then
That's
when
so
I started watching this, I was like, it's that hideous meme creature.
funny. Wow, I didn't see. I'm not very familiar with memes, so like I never saw that. But like now, when I kind of look for it, what did you think of the main like hero, Lena?
I thought she was fine. She
Mm-hmm.
was kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say boring because she wasn't exactly boring, but she didn't have too much of a complicated personality. And like
Right.
her biggest thing was like where she had to decide whether she wanted to trade her wings for a tail,
Yeah.
which I did think that they handled that pretty well, and they made it like a believable um, choice. Like it was kind of distressing for her, and I thought that they did that well enough. But other than that, it was just like she was fine. She's not like super memorable to me.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. She was like, okay, all right. Like there wasn't like a huge arc or anything to her. There's this stereotype that animation films are for kids. They're not all of them, but I do think this one in particular, it is targeted towards more kids. Doesn't mean like
Mhm.
adults can enjoy it, but I think when they were making it, they were thinking more for kids. So they were not thinking,
Yeah.
let's give it a very deep character development and like an arc, and it's more of like how can pretty colors and fun story and a good message.
With this one, I think that they were making it for kids, but I think they kept in mind that adults are probably going to watch it with their
Yeah.
kids, so they
Hmm.
tried not to make it too inane.
Yeah, I've seen films that are definitely just made for kids where you're like, oh my. Like for me
Hmm.
personally, I think Captain Underpants, for example, is just for kids. My opinion, the
I
humor,
haven't seen that one either.
yeah, it's something. Yeah, let's just say that very potty humor, very slapstick. Maybe some adults might enjoy it, but it's not my humor. With this one, I did find myself more involved, and I didn't feel like, oh, I shouldn't be watching this. I was like, okay, no, this is like a fun adventure. Like I'm invested in this somehow. It's not like, oh my gosh, this is the best film ever, but I was, invested in the story. So, what would you rate this film, knowing everything we have discussed?
I think out of 10 stars, I probably would give it 5 because it was very
Okay.
average.
Okay, I agree. I think I'll give it a 6 because I have the nostalgia to it, I think.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. I was watching it and I was like, wow, it's been like 10 years, but there were some things that I remember perfectly and some things I was like, I did not remember this at all. So
Hmm.
that was very interesting to see like what my, 10-year-old self was like, oh, this is my favorite part. And some parts I was like, no idea. But yeah, I think I'd give it 6. Of course, I have the nostalgia to it. But of course, if you compare it to films like, Pixar's films, Wall-E or something, of course it's not. But it was super interesting to see it after 10 years. Because I
Hmm.
remember loving this one. I would rewatch it all the time. Again, like I owned it. So it was super interesting to see it again and be like, wow, okay, so like, dang, you didn't know about animation back then. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was fun. I don't regret it.
Well, before we go, do you want to plug your channel, tell people where they can follow you if they would like to?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, my YouTube channel, Animation Geek. Yeah, that's all the social media I got.
Okay. Oh, and before we go, we're
Yeah.
going to do a video for her channel too. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll have a link to that in the description. You can check that out as well.
Correct.
Well, thanks for coming and thanks for talking about this. This was fun. We'll have to do it again
Yeah.
sometime.
Oh my gosh, yes, I have so many ideas, like things that I like, because I know there's some films that people are like, no, I don't want to talk about that. And it's like, let's talk about those films. So I'm very excited to bring those like obscure films to life.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for inviting me. And I'll see you guys also on my channel.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching our video. Next week I've invited my friend Katie to join me, and she chose the movie A Cat in Paris for us to talk about. This is a movie I had never seen before, and we had a great time talking about it. So we'll see you then. Bye!